Okay, guys, we just finished watching another amazing episode of Young Justice. Oh my God, I'm about to fangasm about this episode because it's just I'm gonna put this episode in the 10. I'm already putting this episode in my top 10 episode.
Really?
I mean top 10 episodes because I really love this episode. I really do love it.
I think you're overhyping it a little, but okay, we'll talk about it.
Okay, we'll overhype it. We'll definitely talk about it. But I guess we really want to figure out what this episode is. Is Cheshire ever going to go to the good side or the right side, or be more a better sister than she is now?
Yeah, I mean, are you a hero now? That was one of the questions that she asked, and yeah. I feel like at this point, Cheshire is definitely a good guy in terms of like. I remember in the previous season, she was definitely helping Artemis with one of the missions, and other than the first season, I don't think she ever did anything like terribly bad. In the second season, she even like tried to kill like Black Manta for supposedly killing Artemis too. So at that point, I already saw her as a good guy. But for her to join the team, that would be a different story. And I would actually be very interested in seeing that happen.
Okay, so this is interesting because I feel like the whole point of Cheshire's character is that she's a selfish character. And, with selfish people, they do things that are considered against the law, which, for heroes, they have to stop. So in terms of that, I don't see her never not being a selfish character. That being said, I can see her at least being more, the way the show is gone, I can see her being more remorse. I'm hoping that she will start the way this arc is going to end. She's going to start caring for her kid a lot more, and we'll see how that affects her.
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of foreshadowing that, right? Because last episode she was suicidal to the point where she wanted Sensei to kill her, right? So because she didn't, and Sensei also mentioned something along the lines of like, come back when you want to live or whatever. Hopefully she doesn't come back to him, but hopefully she does want to like live again, right? To start living again, and for her daughter especially. So I'm hoping to see like a good character arc for her where she can redeem a lot of the things she's done in the past and just like also redeem herself as a mother. So especially with her conversation with
Talia al Ghul,
yeah,
her conversation with Talia al Ghul, yeah. And that's another thing. What I love about this episode is not just building Artemis's character, but Cheshire's character, because it's like they're both going through, like they even said the last episode was called The Tale of the Two Sisters. You're both seeing how their experience living with Sportsmaster has affected who they are, and you're both seeing how even in these situations what kind of morality that they have, and it's just well justified. Like you don't think that one of them is wrong or right in this scenario. Like it makes sense why Cheshire shouldn't trust these two and thinks it's a better idea to just kill them. On the flip side, you get why Artemis doesn't want to kill her. So it's just well done, and it's just this goes back to why I think this is one of my favorite top 10 episodes. It's just everything here is just so gray that it number one, it works, but number two, you're just curious about like you don't know what to believe. Like I don't know what to trust, literally, and it's good. You know what I'm saying?
Well, here's the thing. We got a scene with Cheshire saying that she doesn't trust Onyx whatsoever.
Yeah.
So that leads me to believe that, because otherwise, dude, we didn't get much info in terms of who is the mole, right?
Yeah.
She basically was like, oh, after the interrogation, she said, oh, I have no idea. They were like really good at this. But then at least we got a scene with Onyx where she outright said, I don't trust you, because basically everything she does has the League of Shadows written all over it, right?
Yeah.
So I'm inclined to trust that opinion, or at least use that information and take it as something, take it at face value versus being like, okay, she didn't figure out anything, because otherwise, to me, that feels like there wasn't much progress being made, and why did she even come to interrogate them in the first place?
I still feel like, I mean, I guess what you mean, otherwise it wouldn't feel much progress. I mean, I see what you're basically saying, that if she didn't say that, there would have been no progress, basically. Is that what you're basically trying to say?
I'm saying that her interrogation basically led to 0 results, which is no progress in terms of figuring out who the mole is. But in terms of like that one scene, how I'm deciding to interpret it is that more than likely Onyx is the mole.
Okay,
yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. I'm interested. This is an interesting thing.
That's my guess. That's
your guess. This is interesting because I feel like this episode kind of added, in my this thing, 2 moles. Number one, we think that it's possible that Orphan might be a mole. because it's like even Cheshire's like, oh, you should just trust him because he's Batman, and she's like, yes, and it's like now we're figuring out that she's related to freaking
Shiva,
Shiva. Yeah, Ra's al Ghul's daughter. That's what I'm assuming, right?
I don't think so.
Okay, she was not. Never mind. My bad. Either way, my point is, the fact that she's possibly a mole, and this whole time again, it builds more intrigue and curiosity. And then my other suspicion, and this could be just a stretch, is that maybe Cheshire can be a mole.
No, absolutely not. No, I don't believe that whatsoever. Unless it's like a freaking Red Arrow thing where she just has like no clue and she's a clone or something.
I don't know. Maybe this whole mole thing has just made me curious. But the point is, that's why I like this episode, just because like a lot of things, again, that I love about Young Justice and how everything feels cohesive. Like you understand why people are doing what they do, why this reminds her, like everything, like how this kind of reminds her about like Artemis's situation and all that stuff. Everything feels so connected. That's what I love about it. Like the cohesiveness of this episode. It builds on the last episode, but also builds on stuff we know more. So this is why, to me, it's definitely in my top. It's definitely top 10 right now. I mean, obviously, you could say type because there's going to be more episodes.
No, that's very interesting because I mean, it was not a bad episode for sure for me personally, but it was kind of like a little slow for me. I feel like it's story-wise, like so much happened in the previous episode, but then this episode, not much progress in the story was made other than us learning about Orphan's origins and her getting kidnapped. Because other than that, not too much happened, I feel. But okay, that's just a difference of opinions.
yeah. Because I guess for me, like even the Beast Boy thing, I guess I can see what you mean in terms of like their goal of figuring out who is the mole.
Yeah.
But I do think that even still, the fact that they're even going to a different island and all that stuff, I feel like that's still progress enough. Like, I mean, obviously to get to their answer, no, but in terms of like, is what they're doing productive of helping them solve that problem? They realize, okay, this isn't the way to solve it. So now they have to find another way to solve it. And now we have this new potential thing where this adds a newer problem where it's like I said, Orphan could be the mole. So now we've learned something more new. So it's like, I think if anything, it adds more to like, to solve this problem. Now we're realizing there's another problem to solve. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. I personally, for me, this episode just wasn't like top 10. It wasn't like amazing. It was just more like moving the story along and building up to probably something better the next episode, hopefully, for me.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't say it's the top 10, despite that I love it. I mean, I still have a problem with the fighting animation. Like, it still stood out to me where it was kind of like messy, which it sucks because like, again, like, it even have one of my favorite villains, the Spider villain, and I love that villain because if you know anything about well, not just that, but number two, the history. The guy who created Young Justice also created Spectacular Spider-Man.
Oh, for real?
It's the exact same voice as Spider-Man. Yeah,
I didn't know that.
So that's the joke behind it. It's kind of a inside joke that they're using the same voice actor. So it's like I'm seeing Spider-Man again,
but as a like, bad guy,
which is probably another reason. It's probably another reason why I love this episode. That has Spider-Man, who I love. So I'm seeing how that's being played, and it works because Cheshire, the first time that guy premiered, he was with Cheshire.
Yeah.
So it's like it's like a callback to the first time they were coming together. So it's like,
it was that episode with the whole like was it nanobot eating thingy?
Yeah, nanobot.
Yeah. I remember that episode. It was a good episode.
Yeah.
But definitely, yeah, hopefully Cheshire will get a good arc. That's number one. And then number two, you really love this episode. But personally for me, I just felt like it was okay. But then one other topic we wanted to cover was Beast Boy.
Yeah, Beast Boy.
I'm actually very surprised Beast Boy was just like, he's already back, you know?
Yeah, that was interesting. And it was funny when he came back, I was like, well, since he's back, shouldn't they get Artemis? Shouldn't they get McGann to do the interrogating?
Yeah. But maybe she stayed on Mars, maybe.
Yeah, I think that, and also she's obviously devastated with Connor. So that was the other thing. Like, I feel like she'd be not in the right headspace right now to do that.
Yeah, maybe. So. But I still, oh man, Beast. Okay, they must be building up for Beast Boy's arc. They must be doing something.
Yeah.
Because right now he's just like very, very small clips of it. Him and Brion it's probably gonna lead up to something.
Yeah, exactly. That's another interesting thing that they're doing with Beast Boy and Brion.
And maybe we'll talk about this later on, once we go back to season 3 and do some videos on that. But honestly, I do not fault Brion whatsoever, even without the knowledge of the fact that he was being influenced. I still don't fault him for killing his uncle. Like,
yeah,
I just think that's like some superhero macho stuff that they just have to keep this code, like Batman's code of no killing, blah blah blah. But dude, the guy escaped. The guy is like, so many villains escape. So many. We talked about this in a previous video.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's just
exactly
them just not helping Brion afterwards is just a terrible move. Like, when someone makes a mistake, you don't just like ditch them. Like, you still try to help them out. And it just, even if you cross the line, like, I'm pretty sure everyone in the League of Shadows has crossed the line at some point, yet they're treating them better than Brion, who did it with justification.
To be fair, although I'll just get a quick point about that, and we probably will delve more about it in that video topic about it. He kind of kicked them out, because what happened was, like, they said they don't do that, and then he just said, basically he was all like, okay, well, if you guys don't want to follow my path, get out of my country. Basically that's how it came off at the end. He basically said, get away.
Yeah, but when someone's doing that, right? When someone's in such a emotional state, and they don't know what they're saying or doing or anything like that, and they say to go away, you don't go away, dude. That's your friend. You stay there because that's what you need to do. You know what I mean?
It's again, we don't know about what's going to happen in the show. For all we care, maybe there are people trying to save him, and we don't know about that. I just think that in that moment, it was one of those things where he's like, we're going to kick him out. And then they just weren't really, that wasn't their focus at that
That's
time.
Fair. That's fair.
So who knows in the future whether or not, because I mean, Tara and Halo were still talking about it in the first episodes. Who knows what's going to happen in the future? But that's what I have to say on that. As far as, again, this episode, any, I guess, last thoughts on it? I mean, again, I loved it. Of course, the animations where I'm a little bit like, dang it, if it got that, back to that old school or whatever quality animation, I'll definitely put it as a 10. But right now, to me, it's like a high 8, a 9 right now, but probably like an 8 as I dive down over the hype. I mean, again, the mole is just the real question. Is who do you guys think is the mole? Is the final question.
Yeah. Oh, well, who do you think the mole is? You okay? So far, what you've said was okay. There's a lot more options. For me, I'm still thinking it's just the two. I haven't included anyone else but those two. So I think I just think the mole is Onyx. That's it. Otherwise, Cheshire's instincts are just like rusty or something. I'm just trusting Cheshire. That's what I'm doing.
You're just trusting Cheshire. Just to Cheshire. I still, I don't know. Maybe there could be two moles. This thing. That's the thing. And maybe the two moles is Onyx and Orphan. But I feel like Orphan, I don't know. I mean, I know Batman trusts Orphan, but I feel like there's something about Orphan that they're playing with. So I feel like Orphan has something to play a role for sure. So
like you think so?
Yeah, I just think there's something about that. I don't know, but it's possible it could be Onyx. It could be Onyx or it's just an interesting thing. And I like how we learned the backstory about the Shadows more in terms of like why, for example, why they are they're taught to not speak, and like body language is like an important thing for them so they can be sneaky and whatnot. So it's like, and I guess that's another reason why I love this episode. There was more lore build here for sure.
Definitely.
So the lore really intrigued me more, and it made it feel more rewarding for someone who's watched the show.
Yeah, that's what I appreciate about this episode, was that they definitely dove deeper into the like stories of characters that we don't really know much about. If you're not like if you're not already doing your own research and like reading all the comics and whatnot, which unfortunately I'm not at the moment, but
yeah, exactly.
I do really like DC stuff, so maybe I'll get into it in the future. But at the moment, I didn't know much about Orphan or Shiva or any of the characters that were mentioned in this episode. And I also really appreciate like the whole scenes between Artemis and Cheshire in the past. Even though to me it's a little strange that Cheshire would need help, but I guess she is like a teenager at that point, so yeah.
Yeah, exactly. She's a teenager and whatnot. It's very interesting. And again, they deal with the themes of abusiveness, but they don't get all preachy like, hey, Artemis, you need to go to a therapist and talk about your abusive dad problems. Instead, it's just kind of this under thing where it's like, because
that's true. I can appreciate now that you mentioned it. I didn't even think about that stuff. All right, so that's when they're doing it well, right? That it's so subtle that
exactly. Yeah, that's exactly
that you have to make those connections, or like you have to sort of like it's more like internalized in a way that doesn't exactly, that it's so in your face, on the nose, right? I can appreciate that about this one. And versus like, you know, the whole like Beast Boy thing where he went crazy and was like, you need to get some help. I'm like, damn it. Funny, it's the same show, but like just different characters in different areas makes it so different.
Exactly.
Because it's more of Artemis's character, you know, so it makes way more sense.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, I'm curious, do you still want to read the comments from last
Yeah, for sure, let's do it. We only got 2 comments, but you know, each week we're gonna do some comment readouts, so feel free to comment down below whatever you thought about the episode or anything you guys want us to read out loud. So Obi said the guy is Sensei, the second most dangerous person on the planet next to Shiva. So that we in the previous video we had no idea who you called him Iroh.
Yeah, I basically called him Iroh.
we didn't know who he was, like what his name was.
Yeah.
So it was thanks for telling us, because I mean, they mentioned it in this episode. They said sensei.
Yeah,
but like,
they mentioned sensei.
That's such a broad. That's such a broad thing. Like in Japanese, sensei just means teacher. So it's
I know.
Like sensei, what, you know? Like.
Okay. But anybody who's read the comics, is there like a deeper meaning behind his name being sensei? Like, is this like they're trying to hide something and it's going to build up to something bigger, or is it just like the creators were just so lazy to not give him an actual name?
Just call him teacher. That is literally the equivalent of what I'm hearing in my head, because like you know, I've taken Japanese and stuff. Okay. So the next comment from Zach Ryder is Birds of Prey and the Fantuba blah 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 film butchered Cassandra Cain so much that her crossing her head instead of answering no managed to get a slight cheer out of me due to it being so true to her character. Also, it's so convenient that the Mars arc got rid of every telepath from Earth, so the mystery of who's lying between Savage and Onyx can now take place. Since Zatanna could solve this mystery in 0.05 seconds, I hope the writers remember to include an explanation as to why she isn't called in.
Could she?
That's a good point.
Could Zatanna figure that out?
Yeah, don't you remember that episode where I think it was Moro or some really genius person that they found in order to find a red volcano or something? Basically, she did this spell where she made him tell the location of where the other doctor was.
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, that's interesting. I will say this, especially seeing the trailer. We know that Zatanna is going to be an important role in this season, and I don't know if because she's busy doing something like that, that's going to be their excuse. But that's interesting that they didn't bring Zatanna. I mean, they did bring. Funny enough, they brought a telepath who. That's crazy that I didn't know there's other people who had telepaths. You know, so that's interesting that they did brought a telepath this episode, which answers our question of like, why can't they just use a telepath to figure it out? And that's interesting that the shadows can manipulate telepaths. That's like, how the hell they do that? Like, is there a...
They don't manipulate them. They just have like, I guess they're so good at controlling their brains that they only give out false information or something. I don't know.
This is just so interesting. I'm like, this is like how, for example, how in the ending of season 3, how when Deathstroke asks like, how did they know, and then Batman said I read his micro expressions or something like that. Just like, how the heck did he figure that? It's just a question of,
because he's Batman.
Basically it's just like that. It's just because they're just that good. That's their excuse, that's their logic. So anyways,
to just clarify what I said before, I believe it was Zatanna doing a spell on Ivo, I think.
Okay.
And then Ivo just spit out the location of Tio Moro, who was the creator of Red Volcano.
Okay, interesting.
Because they were looking for him because they were wondering like, why did Tornado betray them? I think that was
it. Okay, that's interesting. I have to. I've. It's been a while since I watched the episode, so I don't remember that happening. But okay, if that's the case, yeah. I mean, who knows? Maybe we'll figure more in episodes later on why Zatanna's not here. I mean, other than the fact that she's probably busy. But
yeah, they're just busy, dude. Like, I totally understand.
Yeah.
Like when it comes to like a huge universe like this, where there's so many heroes that could help out and whatnot, it would be nice to always get to hear like, oh yeah, this person's busy or something like that. But sometimes it just makes it harder for the story to like make sense that way, and they just leave it out.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's fine. It's fine. Like we can just assume they're busy because they're superheroes, right?
It's not so hard to believe that they're busy. It's not like she's like right next door or something, or it's like, hey Zatanna, hey Artemis.
Although they do have Zeta tubes, so I can understand the frustration.
That's true. That's true.
Like, can you Zeta hero over here for a few minutes and just make this person tell the truth?
That's definitely true. So, but yeah, man.
But yeah, let us know your thoughts about this episode of Young Justice, and give us your predictions on who the mole is or what the fate of Cheshire is.
Also, thanks for watching this episode, and don't forget to like and subscribe.
Yeah, really helps us out, guys. So thank you. Later.
Peace.